The 733rd edition of the MMA Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Sign up with promo code MMA SGPN to get a 50% deposit bonus of up to $1,000. And we're also brought to you by Rhythm, the leader in data-driven picks and props. Get your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM.
Heidi Ho DeGenerinos, welcome to episode. What are we at? Put it on the screen, Jeff. 733. Sorry.
733.
733 of the MMA Gambling Podcast and the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, dedicated to Hut Hut. Who's Hut Hut? That's my fantasy football team who won the season for me this year, despite some questionable drafting advice I got from the man on the left. It wasn't his fault. It was injuries, but yet I still prevailed. So this goes out to you, Hut Hut. Even having the inconsistent Brock Purdy as my quarterback. This is not a fantasy football podcast. We probably would get more downloads if it was, but no. Instead, we're covering UFC heavyweight division, everyone's favorite. It should be the premier division. Back in the olden days, maybe not in the UFC, but overall, heavyweight was the division you'd want to watch. But those days have left us. Anyhow, we're gonna finish off our futures today with heavyweight division. I am, of course, Tip Sport Game Changer Fox still, until I come up with a funnier name. The man on the left, of course, is Daniel Gumby Vreeland. He's going to help me get through the heavyweight division. Thoughts on heavyweights, Gumby?
So we talked on yesterday's episode, which, by the way, go back and listen to our light heavyweight recap. That was kind of a fun one. We talked about on that one, it was anybody's path to the title. Mm-hmm. Right. Like, and I think that's what makes like looking at futures odds for light heavyweights kind of interesting, is that like you can make an argument that this 150-1 guy, could win 2 fights and be there. And as a matter of fact, we did. So go back and listen to that episode. In this division, it's almost impossible to draw a path for anybody, because we have a interim champion who has not been granted a title shot despite defending his title right around the same time as the champ defended his title. So it's a cluster at the top. And so like, we already know that fight has to be first. It's not booked. So you're going to have to assume that's April, May. So we're talking about maybe only one other fighter getting to fight, and maybe none.
Assuming things. You shouldn't assume things.
I think at the very most, you see John Jones or Tom Aspinall defend the title one time.
No, I mean, you're assuming they're going to fight in May. You're assuming they're going to fight, first of all.
but maybe it takes all the way to International Fight Week. But then again, my point stands. Just like maybe a December title fight for whoever came out on the other side. So like, I'm sort of half assuming that Jones goes away regardless of whether or not he wins it or loses it. And then we're talking about like, either Tom Aspinall defending his title or two randos coming together, possibly also Tom Aspinall, and fighting for the belt again.
Hear that, randos of the world. Get ready. We both had Aspinall as our pick at plus 175.
I like the pick.
We were half right. We were half right. Politics got in the way because the people
does it say undisputed on those? Does it say?
Yeah, undisputed? I don't know. I didn't play it in real life, so I'm not sure. The people demanded, though, Stipe Miocic to fight John Jones. People demanded that fight, Gumby. Did you not know that? Everyone's talking.
A single person, and I know we don't know real people in MMA. We only know online people. But do you know anybody who was like sick, glad that Stipe is fighting?
No. Maybe his family probably wouldn't even think that, because
I think
he already has enough trouble talking.
Yeah, it's not good.
Firefighters make enough money. He doesn't have to get beat up.
I have no idea what he makes outside, but I half assume he's made enough in his UFC career.
Yeah.
Combined with the fact that he will get some of that settlement from the class action suit. You combine those two things, that dude should probably be all set.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be fighting John Jones at 40 whatever.
Yeah, exactly. All right, before we dive into this fun division that we hopefully painted a fun picture, I'll remind you should dive into our app if you haven't already. Search SGPN in the App Store, and you can get all our picks, podcasts in one place, and it's for free. The most important part, probably. All right, heavyweights. Here is what. Do we have anything legitimate booked? Marcin Tybura, Mick Parkin, UFC London. That's March 22nd. I guess any fight in heavyweight is
2 fights away from a title shot.
Yeah, legitimate. So Waldo versus Costa, Ryan Spann. That's a fight we're all looking forward to. Curtis Blades versus a newcomer. This is crazy, eh? Rizvan Kuniev. That's at UFC Seattle, which is February 22nd. Thoughts on that fight, Gumby? Is he Ultimate Fighter guy? No, not Ultimate Fighter. Kuniev. Where's he coming from again? You don't remember either. You don't even know him. That he's come for
Rizvan Kuniev was a contender series guy.
Contender, right? Twice though. So
it was really boring the first time, and then he got on the second time.
Yeah. So what do you think? It's interesting that they're feeding him to Blades already. Interesting.
You want to know my theory on that? And it's not a fun one.
They want to get rid of Curtis Blades. Well, what's the theory?
I think Curtis Blades' contract is probably close to being up.
Yeah.
This really feels like he has worked himself into the territory of I have one fight left and I'm fighting it out. And
I want to fight Francis Ngannou, right?
I mean, maybe he goes and fights Francis, but if he, I don't know that he wants to leave. I think he's like, I'll see what I'm worth or whatever. And then they let him get to that one fight, because the UFC, when that happens, always books that fighter up against somebody who not necessarily dangerous, but more dangerous than their weight holds, because then if you squash him, they're like, whatever. He beat a contender series guy in his last fight in the UFC. Have fun in the market. Yeah. And he loses to that guy. Then they're like, well, we don't want him more than we want this 10-10 contender series guy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. It's the old wrestling trick back in the territory days. You book the guy to lose if he's leaving your territory. You don't want him to leave strong. So Shamil Gaziev, Thomas Peterson is going down in Riyadh, and that's not a massive fight. But
that's a weird one.
Yeah.
Peterson's undefeated in the UFC though, isn't he?
He's 1-1 in the UFC. Gaziev's 2-1.
Oh, yeah. That's right. He lost.
Interesting. Usually, you should keep those guys separate. At heavyweight, you need all the contenders you can get. Jairzinho Rozenstruik, Sergey Pavlovich, that's in Riyadh as well. And I think that is it. Jailton, our boy Jailton, is fighting in a couple weeks, January 18th, against Sergey Spivak. That's an interesting fight.
That's a fight with real implications.
Yeah. Not a huge division. Not a heck of a lot of fights. I guess actually for heavyweight, that's a lot of fights booked. To tell you.
Would you like me to get into the post odds?
I do.
Here we go. So at the top, Tom Aspinall, -200.
Yeah,
is the top.
Interesting.
Do with that what you will. But that screams to me either they think he's going to beat John Jones, or they think John Jones is going to go away.
He's going to get elevated. Yeah.
John Jones +175. Then you got a pair of 10-1s, Surreal Gain, and get this, 10-1, Alex Pereira, which is fascinating. Yeah. Then you got Pavlovich at 14-1, which, by the way, him ahead of Volkov doesn't make a lick of sense to me.
Yeah, didn't Volkov just beat him?
Yeah, and also then Volkov beat Surreal Gain, but didn't beat Surreal Gain. So you got Volkov 16-1, Blades 20-1, Almeida 25-1. And that's it under 30-1. So I'm going to force you to go first. So hang on. Let me throw the little graphic. Best bets. Little best bets bumper on the bottom. You go ahead and tell me. Yeah. Well, I mean, just it also helps for timestamps. So if you're watching this on YouTube, those timestamps are brought to you by these little lines on the bottom.
There you go.
But tell me what you got here. If you had to got $100 burning a hole in your pocket, which future are you getting down on?
John Jones. What do you think of that?
I knew you were gonna do it.
Really?
Yeah, because I mean,
he can weasel and get injured, and the UFC has shown that for some reason he's in their good graces now, so they'll do whatever he wants at this point.
I mean,
he used to be a sport killer, but not anymore. So I can see him slow playing or fighting someone else or saying he's hurt or hanging on. I mean,
go with the breakdown that I gave you at the beginning of the episode. Let's say they save him till June or something like that. Mm-hmm. He beats Tom Aspinall. He's not fighting again. Yeah. And so then it'll either be vacant at the end of the year or it'll be his.
Yep.
Like that. That's pretty much what you would get. So I see that. I would also say, I kind of think Tom Aspinall is going to win that fight. I have to do more breakdown before I make an official pick, and we got to see where we're at in that part of the year and all that. But if you want Tom Aspinall in that fight, just wait. You're going to get better odds on him in the actual fight. And then you only got to bet the fight. You don't have to bet the future. For my future, I've been pretty conservative on these futures throughout the whole time. So it's the last one. It's time for me to be a little bit less conservative than I've been. I'm going Jelton Almeida 25 to 1.
Nice. You still have faith in our boy, do you?
I mean, why not? Everybody keeps saying you still have faith in the guy. Why? Because he didn't immediately slaughter Derek Lewis, and instead he picked him apart for 25 minutes. He stood with he stayed in there with a dangerous guy for 25 minutes and stayed healthy. Why? Because he got elbowed in the side of the head by Curtis Blades one time. Like after picking Curtis Blades up and dropping him on his head 10 times in the first round, that fight gave me more faith in Jelton Almeida, not less. Jelton Almeida's grappling game could be anybody in this heavyweight division. And I do mean anybody, because previously I had talked about Curtis Blades being the best wrestler and he got out wrestled by a light heavyweight in Jelton. So like, and then Jelton showed how dangerous his hands are. Look, I think Jelton could be anybody in this division. His path to the title is just needing Tom Aspinall to beat John Jones, and exactly what I said about Curtis Blades to come true. Have him just run his contract out, have Tom Aspinall win, need somebody to headline a pay-per-view in London in October or something like that.
Yeah.
Come on, Jelton Almeida versus Tom Aspinall. Got it written all over it. That's a fun fight. It'd be an exciting fight. It'd be a fight I think Jelton Almeida could win. I've been touting this guy as a future champion literally since he was on Contender Series. I think this could be the year for him. And at 25 to 1, you could do a lot worse on a sprinkle here.
And most importantly, he has a fight booked already. So they're
and against another guy we've been talking about possibly being sort of chomping at that title shot too, right? Sergey Spivak has put together some nice fights lately. So, a win over him certainly doesn't look bad. It puts him up where he would then fight maybe one of those big Russian punchers. Like if he beat Spivak, you could give him Volkov, or a Pavlovich, or I think he'd kill Surreal Gain, candidly.
Gain's way too high. He's shown his odds are way too high. He's shown
and he just got. He didn't get beat, but he just got beat by Volkov. Dana White said he got beat, and it wasn't Dana White being like, oh, we really need Paddy Pimblett to win, or oh, we really need Dustin Poirier to win, or well, we really need this young star. It was like, oh, I really need this unmarketable Russian guy to win this fight. That's not versus a guy who represents all of France. That's and is a former champion. So that's not the type of marketing you typically expect from him. So for him to have said that to Volkov, he even said he'd make it right by him. My guess is he's going to get a big fight. Actually, if we're going to get into the mid-range stuff before we hit this, are we going to hit the ad first?
Yeah, let's do the ad read first. Yeah,
right.
In my books, you already got it in the mid-range. You already went plus.
Oh, I'm probably my best bet is probably higher than my mid-range.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of underdogs, Underdog Pick'em has one of the biggest menus for all sports. You can win up to 1,000 times your entry with Underdog Streaks. Underdog is always making it easier to win with profit boosts and gimme pick'ems. NFL, college football, college basketball, MMA, NBA, NASCAR, and more. They got it all, and you can now use specials on boosts on all flex entries. Gumby, have any plays for the peeps?
I usually go to the NBA about this time of year. I stop looking, or the NFL. I usually get off the NFL at this point in time because this is where people rest. I have no idea who's playing anymore, all that kind of stuff. So, Thursday, Timberwolves are playing the Celtics, and you know what I'm going to say here. I want the higher than on Al Horford's 3-pointers because they're going to be playing the Timberwolves. They're going to need to get their offense going because the Timberwolves play some pretty good defense sometimes. So let's let Big Al let him fly from the outside.
Al Horford continues to be the patron saint of the podcast. Sign up with our code MMA SGPN, claim your special pick and first time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code MMA SGPN. All right, boys and girls. You're speaking of you're going to get better odds for Aspinall if. Just for the fight, I see him at minus 128 against Jones.
Yeah.
So why would you bet him at negative 200?
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah. So So I let's get into the mid-range stuff. What do you? Right. I pretty much already dabbled. What do you like for the mid-range stuff?
I like Jelton, and that's a good pick. I approve of that pick. A lot aren't on the board we're looking at currently, so I'm just going to go down rankings and see.
Are you trying to get Hamdi Abdelwab?
Yeah. Do I have to pick someone here?
There are a couple of mid-range guys. We don't have to get into the long shots yet. We're talking mid-range. There's some mid-range stuff.
Is Mick Parkin on the board at all?
He's a long shot. He would be a long shot one. Yeah, I saw him at 150.
I don't mind him as a long shot. Well, we'll save that. All right. How about Salsa Boy? Is he? No.
Salsa, what in the world
I'm
would
joking.
you get that?
I'm joking.
This is going back to your Felipe Bunes pick from
no. I'm looking at people who are on win streaks, and he's on it. Sadly, he's on a win streak. I think
Felipe Bunes.
hopefully he loses his next fight though. More than likely, Salsa Boy is going to lose. There's no one on good streaks in heavyweight, so which I guess shows you probably only a fight or two away from actually getting a title shot. I don't like any of these people, Gumby.
Do you want me to dabble?
Gelatin is my mid-range pick. He's really good at plus 2,500. That's a steal of a pick. If you're going to make a mid-range pick, that would be my pick. Yeah.
Well, and I would also say too, then, and I personally think he's going to slaughter Sergey Spivak. But if you're looking for a value play here, Spivak at 50-1. You know, if you think Gelatin can cash a title shot with like that win and one more, you almost have to say the same thing about Spivak.
Yeah,
he's young. There's that piece to it. He seems to get better every time he fights. That win over Marcin Tybura, not a joke. You know, like that was a damn good win. You know, he's a good one. I would also say, like, I actually think the 16-1 on Volkov isn't bad either. Like I said, I think he beat Surreal Gain, which really would make him a top 5 heavyweight at that point in time, right? And Dana said he's going to do right by him.
Yeah.
Like, what does that even mean? Like, what is doing right by a guy who arguably beat a top 5 heavyweight and is a top 5 heavyweight? Like, what could he, you know, when you say that to a guy who's ranked 15, that just, you know, like when they said that to Dan Ige, they gave him a big step up for his next fight.
Yeah.
You know,
usually it's financial. It means we're going to pay you the other half of your pay, but he also treats it as a win. Or the matchmakers treat it as a win, then they book accordingly.
And so if they treat that as a win, that was already maybe a number 1 contender fight. I think the fact that Gain stole the decision was the only thing that made it not a number 1 contender fight at the end of the day. And so, like, I mean, maybe he gets a rematch against Surreal Gain.
Yeah.
I mean, he already beat Pavlovich. I mean, like, there's not really much else up there for him. Like, he could already be chomping at a title fight anyway. So, like, at 16-1, you know, again, I think drawing the paths to the title here are murky because of how we're looking in terms of, you know, just who's going to fight, why would they fight, and stuff like that. Yeah. So, I don't mind any of those 3 right there in the middle. Again, obviously, I like Almeida the best, but you know, like, all those odds are respectable.
Yeah, definitely. All right, before we get to long shots, speaking of odds, make sure you check out all your MMA odds at mybookie.ag. Gumby said that they already got extensive lines for the upcoming UFC vet. We're almost there, people. The long off season lasted almost a month. We're almost there. UFC's almost back. And we're going to be covering an event in a few episodes. So check out all the odds at mybookie.ag. We are brought to you by them. We've been brought to you by them in the olden days as well of this here network, SGPN. They got props for every game, and they got a live dealer casino. They got new early cash out options. They got MMA lines, as we told you. And more importantly, use our code SGPN when you head to mybookie.ag, and then you get 100% deposit match up to $1,000 plus a $10 casino chip. That's mybookie.ag, promo code SGPN. And SGPN's proud partner Rhythm is the number 1 AI-powered sports betting platform that helps provide bettors of all levels the ability to build custom predictive betting models in seconds and get predictions for betting on moneyline spreads, totals, and props. Build your own model, copy one of the top performing models from the leaderboard, or have Rhythm build a model for you. And you can now track all your props in the Rhythm app. They got NFL picks, NFL props, college football, college basketball, NBA. Rhythm has it all. Al Horford props, damn right. They got that too. Claim your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. And naturally, Al Horford, Gummy mentioned him earlier, as per usual. So definitely get in on him right now. check out the I guess Rhythm more than likely will back what we're saying. Always play Al Horford. Always play Al Horford.
Do you think there's like a little like alarm bell next to him that says like, you know, variable, like too variable for the model to predict?
That's the problem with him, isn't it?
There's just every single game is an outlier. You know, I think we were talking about him here. This is not an Al Horford podcast. We were talking about him on here.
It is.
And he promptly went 1 of 10 from 3-point, which, by the way, who is taking 10 3-pointers when they're not making any? It's insane. But the answer is Al Horford. And then I saw another game where he was 3 of 4. So he hit the higher than on a game he shot 4. He hit the lower than on a game he shot 10. And that is the beauty that is Hal Horford.
That is the NBA, Gumby. They let big guys shoot. I wasn't allowed to shoot threes when I played in college. They wouldn't let me shoot threes. I actually could shoot threes, but no. Back in those days, big guys were allowed.
Big tall guy go down.
Big tall guy go down low. Not that I was playing much anyhow. So, all right.
Long shot time.
Long shots. Nick Parkin. Why not for me? He's got a fight against Marcin Tybura. That's a pretty big fight for him.
That's a big step up. That's the step up you want right there.
Yep. He's 4-0 in the UFC. He is British, even though they probably aren't going to have another. We're probably a year out at least from him. Be a serious contender, but this is long shots anyhow. So,
and my understanding is he's done some cross training with Tom Aspinall as well. So like that sort of screams like, oh
yeah,
I
think I heard that. Yeah,
you won't see them throw down. So then you're hoping for a John Jones win, and John Jones doesn't want to.
I'm always hoping for a John Jones win.
Yeah, then you don't want him to fight. He's not fighting Nick Parkin anytime in his. There is a much darker timeline where he fights Nick Parkin. So yeah, I agree with you on that one. Like I think maybe he's one of the most fun long shots on there. And it's what we said at the top. The long shots here are just not fun because this is a division, and like the long shots in some of these divisions are really fun. Like if you go back and listen, we made some really awesome cases at like flyweight and, some fun cases at, welterweight and things like that. But like it's just so hard when the two guys are at the top and it's clear and they're not going to fight for a while. So like that's harder. So yeah, I'm with you on that one. I will say I can't find the odds anywhere. I'm trying to hope somebody posts it. One of the ones I wanted to play as a long shot. Hear me out on this. Ryan Spann.
Anything's possible. Anything's possible.
Well, and just like the formula is there. Like I know, if you study the history of the heavyweight division, right? We go way back. No weight classes, nothing mattered. But then like once we started to get a legitimate heavyweight weight class, it went big angry wrestlers, and then it slowed down a little bit where like Randy Couture could win and Tim Sylvia's weird flabby body could win, and then it jumped
breakable body,
and it jumped back up to the freakiest roid freaks of all time. With Brock Lesnar and the bulked up Frank Mir and Shane Carwin and like that whole thing. So it went big again. Then we went small again, right? Like because we went back down to like JDS and Cain Velasquez. But then we got big crazy power punchers, the Derek Lewis's and the Francis Ngannou's. And it feels like it's going back down a little bit to the like 240, 245 guys. And I know Tom Aspinall is a little bigger than that, but like he kind of fits in that like faster, more athletic, like the more like JDS or Cain Velasquez than Brock Lesnar. And then like, I mentioned Jelton Almeida can make 205. We've seen him make 205 and he's looked amazing at heavyweight with the exception of taking one elbow to the side of his head. And like, we saw Kennedy and Nzechukwu. Granted, he's gotten some like cupcake matchmaking in his first 2 fights at heavyweight, but that dude's won 2 in a row at heavyweight. His teammate follows suit. Ryan Spann goes up to heavyweight. I know we haven't seen him there yet, but like, I mean, like if you pit Ryan Spann versus Kennedy and Nzechukwu at light heavyweight, who you picking?
That's like a Spider-Man meme fight.
Yeah, well, exactly. But I think I would pick Ryan Spann. I think he's a little bit more well-rounded. I like his game a little bit better. So if that's the case, like, who's to say he couldn't beat 2 or 3 guys? And now, granted, again, this is the problem with not having a very clear tippity top of the division, not having somebody fight. But like, if this was a division that was more active, that had an Alex Pereira at the top, I think this would be a lot more fun to talk about. There's a guy we didn't talk about it at the mid-range. What do you think? Maybe this is a fun way to wrap this one up. I'll take the long shots odd thing down. What do you think of the chances of Alex Pereira fighting heavyweight?
Could happen if that's what Jones wants, and that's a bigger fight than the Aspinall fight. So
you think so?
Yeah, I think so.
It's funny. It's funny.
A bigger star. Aspinall's just a star because people think he's being hard done by here. Obviously, Pereira's the bigger star here, I think. So
at least in the States, right? Like, and I don't know. I guess I don't know what kind of marketing goes behind these Brazilian stars in terms of marketing them to Brazil. He seems like a guy who doesn't do any endorsements for anything. Like his Instagram doesn't have like, you know,
it's
like
not annoying. Yes.
yeah, a lot of these fighters are like, even I even saw an advertisement on Cedricus Dumas's for a brand of underwear recently, and I'm like, God,
they even got him, did they?
Yeah, it was spelled funny too. It was dirty drawers, but it was DERDE, dirty,
Yeah.
dirty drawers. Which, by the way, not a great marketing.
No,
dirty drawers is how you're going to market your underwear. But yeah, like everybody seems to have like something behind them that they market, but like he doesn't even seem there. So like I don't know how big he is in Brazil. He's got that whole changing tires aura around him, and like I don't know that sells well. So like, but Aspinall's huge in the UK. People love him over there. So like that seems like it could be a piece to it too. But in the US, it does feel like Paeta's bigger.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. You would obviously rather see Aspinall, right?
I just think I'm of the belief, and I've been of this way since I was, just barely an MMA fan, is that like if there is a clear number one contender, we got to have him fight first. If we want to do something weird or stupid afterwards, like deal with it. And the second you have a moment where there's not a clear contender, go do something weird.
Yeah.
Look at DDP right now. If they wanted to do something weird with DDP right now, instead of booking that Sean Strickland fight, you got Sean Strickland, who kind of deserves a rematch. You got, Kamzat, who looked really good in his fight, but like he beat an old guy who seems like he's got a foot out the door. And granted, I wrote him off in that fight, but like I shouldn't have. So like there's different options, but like those guys could duke it out. If they wanted to do something weird with DDP there, that's the time. Same with Islam. If he gets through the Arman Sarukian fight, like what's next? Any of those 100 guys who have just been holding their spots at the top of the rankings, whatever. That would be a fun time to do a new fight. There's just such a clear number one contender fight right here that like messing up two divisions for it doesn't make any sense for me unless Pereira wants to leave light heavyweight behind, which it doesn't seem like he does. So I say it's got to be Aspinall next, and then we'll figure it out from there.
Yes, not for us to figure out, but we shall be talking about it for sure. And we're going to be breaking down fight cards again starting next week. Yay! LFA and UFC will be hitting up on the network next week. UFC is at the Apex. It's not your typical. It's not horrible. Mackenzie Dern, Amanda Hebos rematch is the main event. Chris Curtis, Roman Kopylov is the co-main. Some interesting fighters on this card. Pretty good.
Your favorite fighter is on that card.
Fatima Klein.
No. Your real favorite.
Oh, Felipe Bunez and Jose Johnson. Yeah, like I said, there's some decent fights, especially if you're a fight nerd, not a capital F capital N as in the fighting nerds, but if you're a fight nerd, this is a good card for you. So we'll be breaking all that down next week for you. Hopefully you enjoyed the features episode, and we'll be talking to more features and all things MMA in the Discord, sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Discord. You can catch us on the YouTube and make sure you subscribe to MMA Gambling Podcast. Check us out on Twitter, SGPN MMA. He's at Gumby Vreeland. I'm at Jeff Fox there and on Instagram. Get in my Substack, moneymma.substack.com. We'll have a Dern versus Hebos pick'em contest up and running on Monday. Gummy's got Top Turtle MMA podcast, recharges batteries for a week, and then he's back with some more exciting interviews. And of course, we're at sportsgamblingpodcast.com, sportsgamblingpodcast.com/store, and sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Patreon. I know Gumby gets to bid you farewell today until Sunday.
All right. I'm Dana Gumby Freeland. He's the polar bear, Jeff Fox, and we will see you on Sunday.